Hi everyone. I'd like to talk with you today about a lesson I learned years ago about the memories of birth that women hold. And I'll tell you, I learned this from a study that I did really 20 years after I started teaching. I was having some thoughts about leaving the field, and I decided I would try to find some of the women that I had taught in my original classes. And I have to tell you, I've been teaching since 1968. So I was able to find, this was in the late 80s, I was able to find some women who had been in my classes and whose stories, the birth stories I had, they wrote them and sent them to me shortly after their babies were born. And so I contacted these folks, and I found 24 women. All the women I found agreed to participate in my study. And then they wrote another story. I asked them, will you write the story as you remember it now? And that was about 20 years after I started teaching, after they had had their babies. Well, I compared the two stories, and it was uncanny how similar those two were. And the second ones were shorter, but the memories were very consistent. Well, then I had them come in, and I did a study, I interviewed them and asked them some questions about how satisfied they felt and other things. And the things I found were not that the women who had the highest satisfaction had the best births in terms of easy births or quick births or natural births. That was not a factor in their satisfaction. The most important single factor was how they remembered being cared for by their doctors or nurses. We had no midwives even practicing in our area at that time. But the women who felt that they were honored, they were respected, they were listened to, they were helped, they were nurtured, they were the ones that later 20 years later, felt satisfied. Some of them had very difficult births. Some had very easy births. But some of the women who were not satisfied with their births had easy births. But they remembered being insulted or treated badly, not listened to. One woman was told, stop that breathing right now, I won't have it. They felt very discounted. So that makes a long story short, but my lesson from that was, number one, women remember their births forever, and you're going to, so let's make it a positive memory. But also, the care you receive during childbirth is going to be key in how you remember it for years to come. And this was, I have to tell you, this was the study that for me, that convinced me that we needed to provide better care for women, emotional care for women during labor. And I had a lot to do with beginning the doula movement. And I saw doulas as an answer there. But the point, that's one point I want to make, but the other point I want to make is that it's worth it to spend a little time thinking about what's important to you, about the people to have around you that will provide nurturing, love, safety, and the kinds of things you want from your birth. Does it matter to you to have a natural birth? Does it matter to you to have medication so that you won't have to feel all of it? Does it matter who is with you? If the nurse is unpleasant to you, does that matter? If it does, are you going to speak up about it? But my point is that you are creating a memory, and you have a lot to do with that. And the people that are surrounding you and the care that you're receiving is going to make a huge difference for the rest of your life in how you look back on this. One woman said, after that, I knew I could do anything. She was so empowered by the birth, and that carried on forever. Another woman said, it was like climbing Mount Everest with a companion. Another woman said, I could joke with my doctor. That doesn't happen too often now because we don't get to know our care providers all that well. But I could give you lots of stories of what the women said years later. But my point, I just want you to think about how you'd like to remember this and knowing that there are things you can do to ensure a good memory. Thank you.